Hello and welcome to the Old Man Orange Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Dave Candito.
And we're coming to watch some good old 1992 Reservoir Dogs, a movie that Dave told me that he had never seen before. And I felt like because of this, it's like, well, you know what we got to do? We got to watch this because, you know, back in, I don't know, kind of like for me, late, I guess you would say elementary school days / going into like high school, kind of when getting into filmmaking and, you know, just all kinds of movie, you know, lore and stuff like that. And you're passing around movies with buddies and trying to like see all kinds of different stuff. Of course, Reservoir Dogs was a big one there. I remember Pulp Fiction when it came out, seeing bits and pieces of it off of like, I don't know, maybe HBO or something, like whatever the heck it was playing on in maybe 95, 96. But I never saw Reservoir Dogs till maybe very early 2000s myself. But it was that one that like instantaneously you find this, you pass it to a buddy, you can make friends this way with this kind of film too, you know, and it's just a cool action hangout one. And what really is one of the big starters of that indie boom, you would kind of say, of the 90s for filmmaking. You know, it starts with Sex, Lies, and a Videotape, but then you got Reservoir Dogs, which turns into El Mariachi and Clerks, and then just spawns this whole, like, subsection of films that goes on till the early 2000s. And, of course, this is Quentin Tarantino's very first one.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is a lot of what you said. I gotta say that I'm pretty parallel with the I remember learning about Reservoir Dogs and not really watching it for up until yesterday in full. One more movie that we've gone over that I saw in pieces on television, but really I only saw a few parts of this one. It was when Mr. Orange gets shot and shoots the lady, and then
like about one of the only ladies in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I think that might be the only scene I remember watching prior to yesterday. Wasn't that long of a scene either, but no, I remember in high school, like a handful of my friends were either talking about Reservoir Dogs or I saw it on people's like they had either like pictures of it in like notebooks or something, you know what I mean? Like it was by then already a cult classic. Because I mean, let's see here. So that was his first, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to say there'd been 5 movies by the time that I really noticed, hey, this is a movie. Hey, it's a Tarantino movie. Because I think it was around the time when I saw Death Proof.
Okay.
I'd already seen Kill Bill. I'd already seen Pulp Fiction. I've actually never seen Jackie Brown.
I really like Jackie Brown. I will say, this is the thing about Jackie Brown. A lot of times you watch it the first time and you go, I thought that was okay. That's not too bad. You know, maybe not the best of Tarantino's, but I kid you not, the more that you watch that one, and I feel like I've talked to other people that say the same thing too, it just kind of gets better and better and better. And like by my 5th watch or something like that, I'm like, I think that's actually one of my favorite Tarantino flicks.
So I haven't seen Jackie Brown, and I haven't seen, I'll let you take a guess on the other one that I haven't seen. There's only 2 left that I haven't seen.
True Romance.
True Romance. That's not a...
Well, he wrote that one, but pretty much...
I'm only talking about the ones he directed here.
Okay. I say, because True Romance is one of those ones that it's him and then Tony Scott directs it. So it's like
Natural Born Killers. I thought Natural Born Killers was a Tarantino film. And then, of course, you know, by technicality, no, it's not, and blah, blah, blah.
The differences between those two is because both of those ones are Tarantino scripts. So, but Tony Scott pretty much, other than the fact that they just rearranged the movie in chronological order for True Romance, he pretty much sticks to the whole Tarantino stuff. So it feels very Tarantino when you watch True Romance.
Okay.
Just picture
I actually haven't seen that either, but
yeah, just picture Tony Scott's directing like from like Top Gun or Days of Thunder or something like that over the top. And then of course Natural Born Killers, Oliver Stone sort of takes Tarantino's thing and then just runs with it because he's Oliver Stone. And I know Tarantino doesn't like it, but I'll say this. I love really I think that movie's amazing. I think it's hilarious. I think the Rodney Dangerfield stuff is the dad, which I think is not in the Tarantino script. I think that actually is Oliver Stone stuff. Where, he's sitting in the bathroom. He's like, shut the fuck up. You're a fucking idiot. He's talking to his wife.
That's so funny. Yeah, no, I love that movie. There's nothing about that movie I don't like. It's so good.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I love that one too.
But no, out of his 9 movies that are his, that he says are his, which is funny because it's 10, but he considers Kill Bill 1 and 2 just one, I guess, story. Out of his 9 stories, I hadn't seen Jackie Brown, and I haven't seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I really want to because it looks really good. I've heard nothing but good things about it. So,
well, and it's funny you mentioned that one too, because both those movies I feel kind of have a similar vibe to them, where they're kind of hangout movies, and they get better with each watch. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I really like that one a lot too. I think that one's super good. And what makes it even better too is if you read the novel that Quentin Tarantino wrote that goes along with it, because it adds in all kinds of extra details, especially for Cliff Booth, who's Brad Pitt's character. Like they make him totally badass because it goes back into like his World War II days and all sorts of stuff. So no, that one's well worth checking out. I was gonna say there's one other one I'm gonna throw out there, and it's another one of the Tarantino's where he writes it.
Yeah,
but Robert Rodriguez directs is From Dusk Till Dawn. Have you ever seen that one?
Oh, I love From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah, good.
That was another one. Like when I heard the thing about Tarantino saying he just wants to direct 10 movies, and I'm thinking like, I'm counting all these movies. I'm like, he's got like 14 movies. What is he talking about? I'm like, no, he's only directed 9. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. I only watch him, so I don't care. But but no. So yeah, I'd seen a few of his movies by the time I had learned of this. Reservoir Dogs, and what I knew was I really loved Pulp Fiction. I loved that movie so much. I thought there was like this really like eerie like lore to it almost. There had to have been, right? You know, like it's this the way that it's written, you know, you watch it in segments, and the characters, at first when I watched it, I thought he was dead. And then it, you know, goes on to the next scene and whatever. But what I was pleased to learn about in Reservoir Dogs was that Vic, the psycho, is Vincent's brother.
Yep.
Not Vincent Valentine. Jesus, it's not Valentine. Vincent Vega.
Vincent Vega.
But yeah, I learned about that, and I thought like, oh, cool. So they're in the same universe. And then I thought, I wonder if any of his other movies are in the same. You know what I mean?
Well, they even mention, and I actually kind of forgot about this, but in Reservoir Dogs, but when I rewatched it, is they mention Alabama. Mr. Blonde talks about that. He's like, oh yeah, I was working with Alabama. Well, Alabama is the girl from True Romance. Ah. Okay. So I was like, I kind of forgot about it. I'm like, oh, that one's kind of connected. Because I know that, like, in Tarantino's movies, I think he has, like, you know, Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs. I think one other one's supposed to be all connected into, like, kind of like the crime gangster one. I don't know if Jackie Brown necessarily is, too. But there's sort of that. And then he has kind of, like, his genre period piece ones that are supposed to be somewhat connected, too, because they all have kind of, like, alternative history things that go on in them.
Yeah. I love Death Proof. I thought that movie was great. I actually liked it a little bit more than Planet Terror. I mean, I know that's not his, but they were released on that Grindhouse thing.
Yeah. Did you get to see it in that Grindhouse style when they had it in cinemas? Where I
didn't see it in the movie. I got it years ago. I don't have it anymore. But I got the DVD 2-pack of it, and so it was the one and then the other, and in between there was the trailers for Machete. That
so you
became
you
an
got
actual movie.
Yeah, you got the good version, because that was the thing, is they had that movie like the way that you're talking about, where like they rolled together, they had the fake trailers and all kinds of stuff like that, and then they released them on DVD and they split them in half. So they took out all the extra stuff. They did make the movies longer, but like it sort of took away from the experience, because I got to see that movie I remember when it premiered. I just happened to be in Santa Cruz when that was, and I went to the showing to go watch Grindhouse. I don't know, 11 o'clock at night or whatever the heck it was, 10 o'clock at night, and man, it was just an experience, just in the theaters of everybody there and seeing both of those movies back to back and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So getting into it, I'd had a taste of a few different Tarantino films already: the Kill Bills, the Pulp Fiction, the Grindhouse flick. And that was, of course, before or right about the time I'd heard of Death Proof. And not long after, I mean, not Death Proof, Reservoir Dogs, not long after, Inglourious Bastards came out, I watched that. And then I watched, of course, later on, Django Unchained. And only recently, as in like the last year, maybe 2 years, I had watched The Hateful Eight. And so yesterday, as we started watching Reservoir Dogs, it starts up. And of course, it's the diner scene. Totally reminiscent of the beginning of Pulp Fiction to me. And I just immediately thought, I'm sure this is going to be like a kind of a flashback scene. And I don't know if you could say it really was, but it kind of is if you go with the way that the movie flows. Anyway, and listening to all that dialogue, I mean, if you know Tarantino films, you know that it's like dialogue up your ass, and which I don't see anything wrong with. If you got a cool story and you got a good hook, it's gonna get you. And I wouldn't say that it was a super exciting conversation, but it was enough to like. I'll say this: as a former service industry worker, you get a little irritated at Mr. Pink, who is gosh, what's his name?
Steve Buscemi.
Steve Buscemi, yeah. And it's one of those things where, I don't know, I think Tarantino does a good job at this. There's a character in like all of his movies that they're always talking about these age-old arguments and stuff. And you know what I mean? And this is one of them. And I'm going, okay, I'm kind of seeing your points here, but you're still an asshole. And then it goes to, no, you're just a dick. And and then, of course...
I do feel, though, like when Mr. Pink goes on his rant there, and at first you're like, look at this asshole and so on like that. But then there is a point, though, when he does kind of bring up the, well, you feel the need, you don't tip the guys at McDonald's.
Yeah, McDonald's, yeah.
Yeah, but, they do the exact same thing, but you feel the need to tip these people. It's like, and when he says that, I'm like, yeah, you know what? I don't know why we've set out this way. That is actually kind of very dickish of like the world that you tip one and you don't tip the other, and sometimes even like nowadays too, it's like I think about it. I always kind of go like, because before it used to be that thing, as I worked on the restaurants too, it's like you always just kind of did the good tips, and then I felt like as time went on, it's like, you know what, people sometimes aren't always doing like, I've seen people in fast food restaurants that give you way better service than you see in sometimes sit-down restaurants. So it's like one of those ones where it's like, I'd say you got to sort of earn your tip, but you sort of do got to earn that tip.
Exactly, man, exactly. I have only ever not tipped a server once in all of my times of going out to eat. And it
Did
was
you only give you 5 out of 6 cups of coffee?
Yeah. Pissed me off.
She was almost there. She almost made that 6th one, but she didn't.
It was just like the service was non-existent, and there was an issue with my plate, and I told her, and like I'm a super laid back, chill dude. Like I will get the wrong meal sometimes, and I'm just like, I don't even care that much.
Yeah.
Like shit happens, and I'd still like, hey, you know what? My order was screwed up, but you know what? You did a really good job anyway. Here's your 20% or whatever.
And, whatever. People make mistakes, that kind of thing.
Exactly. But this one particular time, it was at BJ's in Sparks, Nevada. Either Sparks or Reno, but I think it was Sparks.
Yeah, nobody was getting BJ's tonight.
Yeah. This girl was she like didn't give a crap, man. And I was super polite to her. And she looked at me and she's like, okay. I'm like, okay then, no tip for you. Yeah. And I don't know what happened after. I mean, she was probably upset, but I don't care anyway.
That's like Hollywood waitresses,
I couldn't. I was like, dude, what? But yeah, and my wife and I, of course, we had the conversation too. This happens a lot when we're watching these movies. We got to pause and then talk about what's going on and how it relates to us. And because she's a bartender, of course, and I remember in California the restaurants that. Well, the one restaurant I worked at, well, I worked at too. Anyway, the employees were always paid minimum wage and then got tips, on top of that. I don't know if that's every restaurant, or I don't know if I think there's something where like if you have less than 10 employees, then you have the option to not pay them minimum wage or some weird crap like that. But every restaurant I ever worked that I had friends that worked at, they all got paid minimum wage. Now in California.
Yes, in California, that is the case, I want to say. Unless some scam artist is running it, you get paid minimum wage plus tips.
So that's the thing. And that's where I was like, well, yeah, okay. Like he's saying that they're getting, if they're working 40 hours a week and paid minimum wage and getting tips, that's not that bad. That's really not that bad. Now, however, you do work your butt off sometimes, and a lot of people just don't tip. They don't. Nope. And in Missouri, minimum wage, it's like restaurant workers are like, what's that? So my wife gets paid like $6 an hour minimum wage, and then her tips are her real wage. And it's just anyway, it's one of those things, because she's like, I don't get paid minimum wage. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna pause this. And then I told her, like, in California, it's like this. She goes, well, just one of the few things about California that's awesome. But,
yeah. Well, my buddy Wes, who I do the Via VHS podcast with, he works pretty much at restaurants and so on like that. And he told me the same thing too. I think out there in North Carolina, it's only like a couple of dollars. I felt like I almost want to say, he said it was like $3 or $4 is like the minimum wage that you get, like, stupid. He's like, but people tip big. And he's like, really, the funny thing is the only people that don't tip big is Californians. And it's like, it's not necessarily their fault. Just a lot of times they don't realize that it's kind of different out here. You know what I mean? In their mind, it's like, whatever, you're getting minimum wage. You're like, here's your like 10%, see you later. Like, where I think everybody else kind of knows that these guys aren't really getting tipped well. And I'm assuming, because I can't really remember this necessarily when I was in Tennessee. I guess I would have put 2 and 2 together, like that these people weren't making anything, as far as like their minimum wage at like a restaurant. Maybe everybody was more friendly there, so maybe that was the case. Where like I think that's the downfall is in California, it's so expected. That's why the service, I feel like, I feel like an old person, but like the service starts lacking in the last like 10 or 15 years. Like they just don't care as much because they just know the tip's going to come. And I'm not saying that with every restaurant, but that you see it every once in a while.
Yeah.
Where I did remember in the South, like, now that I think about it, every restaurant, like everybody was like, they did their part and made sure. Maybe that was the reason why. I was probably just the poor Californian there who just didn't put 2 and 2 together. But
oh yeah, no. When I found that out, when I first came out here, I asked a waitress about it, or server, or bartender, or whatever, and I'm like, "What do you don't get paid minimum wage?" She's like, "No." I'm like, "What the hell?" I'm like, "How?" And it's like, well, whatever. What am I? I'm not going to change the world, damn it. But anyway, so we had that nice conversation, and it's really interesting to her what she'll tell you about who tips good and who doesn't tip good. But I'll leave that for another discussion.
It's mostly always the opposite of what you think. The rich people mostly tip way less than, like, a lot of times it's the poorest blue collar worker looking guy will be the guy that tips the highest. It's funny how that.
We were watching this movie called Waiting the other night. I don't know if you ever seen.
Oh, that's a good movie.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And both of us, mainly her though, she's like this. I feel this movie. Like I feel this is really.
That's on my because I showed that movie to my dad because he's like been a bartender most of his life or something like that, and he thought it was like spot on, accurate, and hilarious.
But anyway,
there's another one you could throw on the list. It's called the Slammin' Salmon, and it's one of the movies from like the Broken Lizard guys, the Super Troopers. So it's pretty much like Waiting, but it's kind of like their variation of it, but with all those guys in it. It's really good.
Huh? I had no idea about that. I thought they only had the Super Troopers 1 and 2, Club Dread, and Beer Fest.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's came right after Beer Fest. I want to say it's literally the movie after Beer Fest.
I love Beer Fest. We just watched that recently too.
Yeah, that's a fantastic one. But I love all the stuff those guys do. But Slammin' Salmon's pretty darn good too.
But anyway, this whole conversation at the coffee or the cafe, whatever. You don't even know that Joe is the guy who's got this heist all figured out. In fact, I was like, who is this guy? Because he keeps just saying names in this book. What I like about that scene is you don't know who anyone is. There's been no introduction. And they're just arguing about the the Madonna's song about what it's really about. And I looked at my wife. I'm like, this is 100% a Tarantino film. The Tarantino film, because it's the first one. And, just this ridiculous conversation that you could see having with people. You could see, I could see having this conversation with people that I know. And as it goes on, you know, it's almost like right when you're thinking like, I feel like this is about gone on long enough, they get up and they leave. And I feel like that's pretty Tarantino-ish.
Yeah,
but,
no. It's funny because like this movie kind of comes right out of the gate, like, you know, especially it's like one of those ones like seeing it probably way later down the line after you've seen everything else, and then you see this one, you're like, you see it's all the Tarantino-ness is all here in this movie. It like all exists right from the very beginning. It's not like, you know, there's some kind of people that, you know, they kind of have like a workup, you know, or it's like some bands where like it takes them like 3 albums or so before they finally find their sound. You know what I mean? Like the first couple ones seem very out of place. Where it's like Tarantino's just. Yeah, all they're like hair metal ones that like I never seem to be able to find.
4 albums. I have all of them. 4 albums. Yeah. Before Cowboys from Hell, 4 albums that they don't, if I remember reading right, they don't even consider those albums like their official albums, even though Phil is on the 4th one, power metal. But yeah, anyway.
You're going to have to get those ones to me. I've always wanted to listen to those like early days ones.
They're not bad. They're really not bad. They're just nothing like the Cowboys from Hell and on.
Yeah, it's just that you could total shift. But yeah, going back to like Reservoir Dogs, and you see all this here, and the fact that you are kind of introduced to all these characters, you see their personalities in here, and you know, even as the movie plays on, there's no backstory for the most part on any of the characters, just including Tim Roth, the policeman. You know, and it's funny because I felt like we just did like 2 heist movies in a row, so you can almost compare like Point Break and like Reservoir Dogs. Ironically, they were like back to back, 91 and 92. You know, 2 different heist movies doing kind of different things, different takes.
I love how like Edward Bunker has like 2 lines, and then Tarantino is the first guy to die.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Blue, you don't even see him die. He's an old man, so for all you know, he just like just didn't make it to like the heist.
Yeah, he had a heart attack and just. That's it. But yeah, I would say between Mr. White or Larry and Steve Buscemi, Mr. Pink, I was trying to figure out who was my favorite character, and Steve Buscemi does such a good job playing a paranoid yet professional thief because he's trying to do everything right. Nobody's really doing that but him.
Yeah.
And I was kind of shocked at first that Mr. Orange ends up being the mole. But then I'm like, well, this makes total sense. I love how they go through each one of their the backstories. It's my wife said this to me, and I kind of agreed with her. This almost seemed like, which take this for what you will, but the movie almost seemed like if you took Pulp Fiction and Hateful Eight and put them together, you know, like the formula for the movie, not the plots and everything, of course.
Yeah.
But put them together. You know, and squirted something out of there. This would be like the child of those films. I think the way that the plot is not like I think Pulp Fiction has a lot more going on with the story and the characters and everything, versus like Hateful Eight. Still a lot more in Hateful Eight going on than Reservoir Dogs, but Reservoir Dogs and Hateful Eight, it all kind of takes place in, you know, a very short amount of time. So does Pulp Fiction, but I feel like Pulp Fiction is more of a broad plot. There's a lot more branches there.
A lot more characters and so on. There's like 3 different stories going on. Well, the other thing too about Reservoir Dogs is the fact that like it literally feels like you could see how this could almost be a play in a sense.
Yeah, I said that.
You have like 4 or 5 locations realistically, and if you disinclude like a couple car scenes, like just minus those things out, and like boom, there you go. Or you just find different ways to get around them. You could totally do that because everything's mostly just talking. And that's the thing about it. It's really a movie where like there's just a lot of just great dialogue and great scenes and just fantastic acting.
My favorite scene in the movie, I think, is where what's his name? Harvey
Keitel?
Yeah. Harvey Keitel is explaining and getting like the rundown with Mr. Orange about how things are going to go. And he's like, so what do we do? And he's like, oh, you're going to go do this. They're going to be doing that. I'm going to be here. And then he's like, well, what about that woman's ass? He's like, right here on my dick. And Mr. Orange, of course, saying this.
Yeah.
But, pretty funny scene, comical, kind of like a buddy moment between him and Orange. But I like how it shifts right there when he says, like, well, what about Mr. Orange then asks him, and he just flat out says, like, well, this is what you do in case of this. And he's basically giving him like some solid, like, advice, like solid thief / murderer advice, and it's like this guy, this like seems like a super friendly, like uncle, kind of character, immediately goes into this like killer. And I mean, there's a lot of uncle killers out there, but I thought that was I don't know why, but that scene sticks with me, like, aside from the rest of the movie. And then, of course, where later on it goes to him and Orange and Brown. Poor Quentin Tarantino takes a bullet to the head, apparently, and he's still driving around. But, of course, because he takes a bullet to the head, he runs into a car and then passes out and dies, apparently.
Yeah.
Because you see him talking. And then you don't see him talking.
Yeah, I don't know if that maybe like he got that, maybe he hit his head on something or whatnot.
Because Harvey Keitel says that he saw him get shot in the head.
Does he say head? Okay, maybe.
Yeah. But it makes you wonder. Maybe he thought he saw that, and maybe Mr. Brown hit his head in that small crash. But it's like, whatever. What I like about this movie too is there's a lot of people in it, and you don't know exactly what happens to like half of them, because it happens like off, like immediately the camera pans away and you hear gunshot. Immediately, or Mr. Pink, runs away out the building, and you hear a car crash, and then sirens and gunshots. You know what I mean? Like, you don't really know exactly what happened at like 3 or 4 of the characters. Once again, Mr. Blue, Joe says he's dead, but is he? We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah, we never saw it, I think that answers that in the video game version, but...
Oh.
Yeah. Because, they put a video game out there, like, on Xbox. I know I have it on there and whatnot, and, like, it kind of, you do the heist and everything like that. I remember being kind of, like, it was interesting, kind of a little bit like, low-budget game, but still interesting, But yeah, no, I think that's the thing with Reservoir Dogs is like it was designed to be like, I think because Tarantino kind of knew that like he was going to shoot it like for a low budget movie, like a 16 millimeter, maybe black and white and so on like that. And then of course, somehow, some way, this is how like the fates kind of merge. Tarantino happened to be in an acting class who the acting teacher knew Harvey Keitel and gave him the script. And that's how they pretty much got the money and the ball rolling to get this going, because Harvey Keitel liked it, So then it turns into a kind of like a legitimate movie, not just like a tiny, like, low budget film.
Yeah.
Still a smaller budget one, but like everything kind of is like designed to be in like this. How can you save money? Like, you know what I mean? Like you pan away here, you cut away here, and all this kind of stuff. But it also can make for kind of like interesting filmmaking techniques too. I
wasn't expecting Michael Madsen to be the character that he was. What I mean is, he just got out of prison, of course. For what, we don't know. I don't think they tell you. Just gets out of prison, immediately goes on a heist, and then seems like a calm, cool, collected guy, which he is, but he's just a psychopath. And I was like, dude, this guy's nuts. After he leaves, I'm thinking, or I'm sorry, after the other guys leave, when he brings that the cop that he kidnapped, and they bring him into the little warehouse or whatever it is, the hideout. Eddie and White and Pink go out to move some cars because whatever, Joe won't like it. They finally it's just you and me or whatever. And I'm like, okay, he's about to tell him like he's the cop. He's about to tell him, or I don't know, like give him like an option, like, hey man, like you just let me know and whatever. And I'm thinking this because again, he seems so cool and collected. It made me wonder, like, was Mr. White overreacting? about him shooting people in the bank or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then, no, he just goes absolutely batshit crazy. You know, like the way that Madsen was able to switch, that on and off between nutcase and cool guy, I thought was pretty good acting. And I did think that he got a fitting ending. That Psycho.
Yeah, because he's just gonna tell. It's like he tells that guy, like, I don't care what you tell me, it doesn't make a difference. I'm gonna torture you and make it long and make it painful.
Man, yeah, that was rough. And I love too when Mr. Orange reveals himself to him, saying like, hey man, I'm a cop, and he's like, I know. And then he starts saying, how do I look? And he gets all upset and stuff like, yeah, sure. I'd be upset if somebody cut my ear off too. But I love the reaction, Mr. Orange. That was perfect. First starts laughing. I'd probably start laughing too. I'd be like, are you kidding me? How do you look? Dude, I'm dying over here, which is, of course, after he's like, starts, bitching at him,
They're fucking dying here.
Exactly. Tells him like, you got to just hold on, man. There's cops ready to burst in here, which I was kind of right there with him. Like, why didn't they already? But then, of course, yeah.
They're waiting for Joe. That's the
Joe.
thing. You got to get the mastermind behind it all. You can't just take the small guys out, And
I was sure that they were all set up by Joe because of the way that, once again, good acting here. I don't know if it was accidental or what, but Eddie coming in there, Joe's son, saying like, oh, you like, Joe's on his way, blah, blah, blah. And Larry's, like saying, like, well, what's going on here? Or Mr. Pink, I think, started questioning him, said something about, they were set up, and immediately it sounded like Eddie gets like super defensive. And just by the way he's replying. And, as it turns out, he's not being defensive. He's just being a boss. And like, nobody was set up. And it's like, those words weren't even used by Mr. Pink. He says like, oh, these cops knew. Nobody set up. Who said that? Nobody said that. I didn't say that. You know what I mean? And I'm like, this guy's got to be the one that set it up. And then I thought the same thing, like maybe Joe's working with like the FBI or whatever, or the local PD to try to lure these criminals in here and they can nab them, like they got to be wanted in different places. And no, they weren't. We obviously learned that Orange is the one. And I'm like, okay, that threw me for a pretty good loop. And I think that once again, this is Tarantino's first film. And I think that when it comes to action, when it comes to, I would say, I guess, vivid imagery, it's a little anemic. But again, like you said, he was trying to, mitigate costs. And with that, of course, you get a movie that's a little bit simpler. But I mean, that said, it just things like that making me able to think that things are different than what they actually are. Orange being the cop and everything, they did a pretty good job. It was kind of long-winded, but I think you understand what I'm saying there.
I know what you're saying. I actually just like that you get this fresh take experience, because, for me watching this movie over the years, I know what all the characters are and where everything's going and so on like that. And it's been so long since the first time I saw it that you don't get to see all those twists and turns and trying to put it all together and so on like that. You almost kind of forget because you just kind of know, well, that's what this character is, that's who this is, and so on. And you're just waiting to see where it goes with the next scene and just hear some good dialogue. But like, I like that where you did get it, like the mystery experience of who's who and what's going on here and who's betraying what. You get that first take of like not knowing, I guess I could think of it like when I remember watching The Hateful Eight and I was kind of trying to figure out how that was all going to go down when they're watching that movie. And of course, the good thing is it got the super happy ending that I wanted. I was kind of afraid that like other characters were going to make it that I didn't want to see. And I was like, nope, that all worked out perfect there.
Yeah. Yeah. And you could tell too that this movie obviously influenced Tarantino himself in Hateful Eight and Pulp Fiction and so on and so forth. But I mean, it's cool when you can see that this had a direct influence on other things too. Like I know you're not a big TV watcher, but I watched a series called La Casa de Papel. In the U.S., it was called Money Heist. It's from Spain. It was a Netflix production about a heist. 2 seasons, and they were I think it was like 3. I think the first 2 seasons were on the same. I don't know. I don't remember, but really good show actually. It doesn't drag, but they do the same thing with the names, and that was my other favorite part of Reservoir Dogs is when Joe's giving them the names and Mr. Pink. Why do I got to be pink? You know, like, because you're a faggot.
I laugh so hard at that. That's what they do is I like, it's one of those ones like, I even kind of forget, but like you got some like intense dialogue in this one here that's like, this would be I mean, I know even at the time period, it was still tough. Because that's the thing is like, this would be a tough sell nowadays. But even at the time period, this movie did have a lot of those issues. Same with the violence. They always call this movie like ultra violent, which I hate to say it like, that must be you don't watch a whole lot of action movies, because when you watch action movies, you go like, no, it's about like normal violence. I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe a little bit more bloodier than like your standard Hollywood affair, but like, you know what I mean?
Bloodier than a Disney movie, I'd say.
Yeah, you know, but like Total Recall is probably just as violent, and that was like the year before. So I don't, you know.
Yeah. The I don't know about ultra violent. The that said, I mean, it is very strong language, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I love the well, no, I don't love it, but just what you're saying, the some of the dialogue there is oof, a lot of hard R's, and it's just that scene where Vic gets out of prison and goes into the office there and has a weird fight with Eddie.
Yeah, they're like doing like kind of like a gay wrestle in front of his dad. Daddy, he tried to fuck me. Did you see that? He tried to fuck me, Daddy.
And the fact that, I'm sorry, man, the fact that there's dudes out there that call their dad Daddy. I never once called my dad Daddy.
No. God, no. Wouldn't be caught dead doing that. You get your ass beat for saying those words.
No, man. Shit, no, man. You get your ass kicked for saying something like that. God, I'm not. I will refrain from going further on that. That just, yeah, that was a strange scene for sure. And God, it just made me think of the standoff there at the end between Eddie, Mr. White, and Joe. I'm still wondering how Eddie got shot.
Because Mr. White had to shoot everybody.
I guess because I'm just like, well, wait a minute, like Eddie's on White, White's on Joe, Joe's on Orange, who's on Eddie? So I guess he shot Joe, then shot Eddie. But I was actually kind of shocked that White just truly believed that Mr. Orange was like not the mole. And especially with the dude, because he seems like really experienced as a criminal and thief. Mm-hmm. And he's just so adamant that he's not the guy. He's not the cop.
I feel like it's because he took such a liking to him. I think there's like a weird thing, like almost like it's almost like he took him on like a son, even.
Yeah. I love that act or that scene too, where Orange is they go into his backstory, and he's learning about how to act. He's learning about how to what do you call it?
Do a monologue, do an anecdote.
Yeah.
Well, I love how like they put that scene in there where it's literally a scene about how to act, like, for like a play or a movie, but it's like inside here in a real life scenario that is for him as an undercover cop to learn how to play a part and to be part of these guys by having stories that are fake.
Yeah, no, that was pretty great. The gosh, I don't know, man. I had a thought, and now it's gone.
Did it have to do with that scene where like he's there in the bathroom with all the sheriffs and like the German Shepherd?
Yeah, no, it just I almost forgot that he wasn't that he was a cop while I was watching that. Like, because it's so awkward, he's just standing there in the bathroom being weird as shit. It's almost like he just looked at all their peckers, and he's just, like starting to wash his hands and get out of there. But the way he went, the way that scene was directed, just, I thought it was pretty good. It was pretty convincing. Like I said, convincing enough to make me forget that he was a cop.
Yeah, and the fact that like he's just telling a fake story at the same time, like that's the thing. You buy into it because of the way he kind of gets there. And I love the build up, how it's like at first it's very rough and he's like talking and so on and just like has to go over the lines, and so he's walking in his apartment, and then it progressively gets, it builds up. Then he's talking with the other police dude and he's going back and he's getting more confident in it, to the fact that then he's actually in the story himself, still telling it, and now he's telling it, to Mr. White and Joe and all those guys, and I love that build up that it has in it.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I was kind of shocked by the way that he killed what's his name, Michael Madsen. And what's funny too is when he killed him, it wasn't at that moment that I thought he was a cop either. I just thought he thought Michael Madsen was insane and he was just killing him.
Yeah.
And then after he revealed that he was a cop, it was like, okay, that makes sense. But yeah, I was kind of, that scene where he was throwing the gasoline, Michael Madsen's throwing the gasoline on the cop and, everything. I'm like, holy crap, man. Like, is he going to set this whole place on fire? Like, what is going on? But yeah, the only one though that really seemed like they wanted to really get the heist done was Mr. Pink to me. Like,
yeah, he's really the only like guy who's really in on the job and so on like that, and kind of wants to just do it right and so on. The fact he wants to change his name.
Yeah. Why can't I just be Mr. Purple? You're Mr. Pink. Like,
yeah, Mr. Purple's on another job.
Exactly. And I love too how Joe's like, he's not really even yelling, and he's just like, oh, you guys got me yelling so much. I'm so mad. Have
you ever seen the movie Taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3?
Yeah. Well,
there's a remake of it, which is still a good one too, of John Travolta. But the original one from the 70s, all the characters' names in there are like Mr. Orange and Mr. White, and
I remember that now.
Yeah, they have the color names. I can't remember if the remake has that too, but I know the original one does. Both movies are really good. The original one's got I want to say Walter Matthau's in it, I think. I could be making that up right now. But that's a good one there. But as I said, that has like that the names.
Okay. So Mr. Tarantino probably was inspired by that a little bit.
Yeah, well, because that's the thing about that makes Tarantino movies, is like, for the fact that he's watched more movies than generally most other people, is he filters that in and just fuses things together.
Him and Hideo Kojima.
Yeah, Kojima's just like that too. They just fuse so many things together, and then it becomes uniquely their own, That's literally the same way, because Kojima's kind of like the Tarantino of Japan, Him and Suda 51.
Who? What?
Have you ever played Lollipop Chainsaw or No More Heroes or Shadows of the Damned?
No More Heroes sounds the most familiar.
So, because this guy, he's kind of like Hideo Kojima, where he's a very eclectic like writer, director.
Suda?
Yeah, that's his Japanese name, but he goes by Suda 51.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but all his games are very like Tarantino. Like, that's the best way you can kind of say them. They're like Tarantino in a Japanese form.
Interesting.
And they're fun, and they're, so he even crosses in some of those games, like Shadows of the Dam, Shinji
Killer
Mikami.
7, yeah.
Killer 7 was the other one he did. I mean, he's done a bunch of stuff, but
that game got a lot of controversy.
Yeah, so he does those kind of controversial games and all that kind of stuff, But great story stuff. But sadly, in like the last handful of years, he's kind of slowed down a bit. Not saying that's a bad thing, I guess, but just not as many things coming out. But
well. But yeah, Taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3. Yeah, no, I saw that a while back, and I remember it didn't get very good, didn't get much praise, and I didn't understand why. I thought it was a great movie.
Yeah, I think that remake's really good too. Yeah.
But who knows? I don't know.
Yeah. Sometimes there's just so many movies, you know, that they can't all be winners, I guess.
Yeah, no, I actually, the other day when I was playing that Delta, I actually thought that Hideo Kojima kind of made me think of Tarantino just by the movie knowledge and everything. And then I started watching a YouTube video about Kojima, and just how much, like, he's going through like his office, and he's like a giant room set up with like movie after movie after movie after movie after movie. And I'm just thinking, like, how much, I don't know how this guy gets work done, you know, like, because if you're using all these movies as inspiration and stuff, like, it obviously takes time. The average movie runtime is what, like, you know, 120 minutes, maybe a little less, a little more, give or take. And then to really, you know, dive into a film, analyze it, use that as inspiration for things, which, of course, Metal Gear Solid as a whole is inspired by many things. Yep. Largely, you know, Escape from New York,
Rambo.
Yeah.
There's one that is super. God, I'm drawing a blank right now on the name. I'll have to look it up, but I've watched it a couple times. I did a podcast on it not too long ago, and it stars Roger Moore, and Roger Moore literally looks like Big Boss, like, in there and everything like that, you know. But it's like a British team, and that's like the main game that, like, or the main movie that he watched and wanted to make Metal Gear, the original one, the MSX one from. Yeah, drawing a blank on it right now. I'll look it up. But yeah, no, that's the thing, is he's got a massive amount too. But then again, here's the thing, is I think once you get kind of established and you got your movies going, kind of just like Tarantino, and the money kind of just rolls on in and so on like that, then you could still just sit down and spend like most of your day doing, in a sense, research and just really like taking it in. Now, Tarantino, you know, he always used to say that when he worked at the video store in there in LA, that he watched every single VHS that was in there. And probably what he did is probably just during work, there was probably all, you know, just like any video store you went to the back in the day, he probably continuously threw a new video on. So he's watched them somewhat, but more in the background, kind of. But then you can kind of say, yeah, I've watched every single one here. And, you know, other ones that you really like, you take home and seriously watch them.
Yeah, I thought at first that it was going to be like a one-time conversation when you go to save your game, and paramedics like, Snake, have you ever seen this? And I'm like, why would she ask that? And then, of course, every single time after I save, I'm like, okay. I started just skipping past all those conversations. I'm like, I don't care what you think, paramedic. You don't exist. Like,
I did the thing, because I do this where I'll like, somebody's like loaded all those ones up on like YouTube, so you can just hear the entire like codec calls. And it's kind of like, that's almost the better way, because when you're playing the game, you don't want to stop and let me sit here and listen to you for
it's bad enough having
it's like it's kind of the wrong place for it. But if you throw it on like a podcast, then you get it. It's kind of fun to listen to all that stuff. So I listened to all the movie ones and all that stuff. And the funny thing about it though is, like, you think that after about like the 10th time she brought this up, and she kind of realized, like, yeah, he doesn't watch movies. Like, stop bringing up these movies. He has no idea what you're talking about. But I want to say this real quick, because I just found it. The Wild Geese, 1978. That's the movie that really inspired Metal Gear more than anything else. I think it's really good. My buddy Josh thought it was just okay, but he's not really into British military stuff, so. But I think that one's fantastic. I watched it twice, and yeah, it's a group of these old British mercenary guys that go in for one last hoorah, you know, almost like the Expendables. That's kind of the best way you can say, like British Expendables. So they go on one last mission where they go to like Africa to like rescue a guy and so on like that.
Interesting.
And,
I'll have to check that out.
And that's kind of what it was. You know, and pretty much what Hideo Kojima, he wanted to do it where like a whole team kind of went in, but then he realized because of the games at the time, he's like, well, it has to be one person sneaking in, because that's the limitations of the consoles then. But
of course.
Well worth checking out. But yeah, it's no different than, you know, Tarantino and his kind of film knowledge and how that influences everything. And just the fact that, you know, once again, it spawns these multitude of directors that kind of all kind of have that same upbringing, no different than like Kevin Smith as well, too. Yeah. You know, who is heavily into watching movies more than anything else. Like, that's where their talents more were. It's like a weird one when you think about it, because there's that time period where if you were going to be in the movie making, you had to be really technical. That's where like George Lucas, because that was the biggest thing he was extremely technical. So that's why he had all these award-winning movies, like when he was in like the 60s in school and so on like that, because he was literally the number one filmmaker because of how good he was with that, And where
that's evidenced by the Star Wars Christmas special.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's funny where like in the like with Tarantino and like Kevin Smith, it's like it sounds weird, like their skill, and even Hideo Kojima, what was their skill? They were really good at watching stuff.
Yeah.
It just sounds funny when you think about, like, it's not like they were technical people one bit, they were just extremely good at absorbing knowledge and then putting it forward into a new story.
Tarantino's just laying on his couch butt naked, like playing with his belly button, watching some random ass movie. It's like, I'm gonna write that down. There we go.
Well, what he says he does when he writes movies nowadays is he just like lays out in his pool for like, and just, comes up with ideas just like floating around there.
Interesting. It's almost like the opposite of the immersion tanks or whatever they are. Where you're floating in darkness.
Yeah. I always want to try one of those. I always think those look cool. Maybe make me feel like Daredevil. Oh, he's got to sleep in one of those things to like you drown out all the noise.
And then you drown.
Face first in it.
I get all terrified and just it's funny.
The Avengers open that thing up. He's just in there. For some reason he's face down, for no pants on, just ass cheeks up. They're all bloated and nasty.
A bunch of crap floating around in the water. Man, he got all terrified and shit himself. Anyway,
didn't know where he was.
Yeah, I will say I didn't realize this was Tarantino's first film until you said it at the beginning of the podcast. Knowing that now, I definitely appreciate this movie more than right after I watched it. I didn't know what came before it or what after. Obviously, other than the newer movies, but no, I think it's like the perfect entry for him to get into the films that he's made. Not only the films that he's directed, but those other ones that he's written that he doesn't claim as his or whatever.
Well, because and also those written ones, there's the three of them: True Romance, Natural Born Killers, and From Dusk Till Dawn. He wrote before Reservoir Dogs. So Reservoir Dogs is technically the fourth movie as far as his screenwriting kind of goes. And I know Robert Rodriguez told him, because he's like, he had to tell Tarantino at one point, he's like, you keep ripping ideas from your Dusk From Dawn thing. It's never gonna, if you keep pulling stuff out of there, you're gonna not have any cool scenes left in there. Let's just make it. Yeah,
no kidding. Yeah, I was almost a little bummed when I learned that he didn't direct that. He only did writing in it and stuff. But I mean, whatever. Rodriguez is an awesome filmmaker too.
Well, that one, he's right there with him because he stars in them. He's I love how he writes himself, and he's George Clooney's brother.
Yeah,
what we all wish to be,
we were when we were watching that, my wife and I, she's like, only in this movie could he ever be his brother.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like that. It's so hilarious. But since he's right there the whole time, I feel like that movie feels like it's really just as Tarantino as can be. It's just you have Robert Rodriguez to kind of do all your big action scenes and so on. And granted, Robert Rodriguez actually writes movies very similar to Tarantino as well, because a lot of his movies are filled with witty dialogue and scenes where like people go on for a while in these big talk rants before everybody starts getting shot up and so on. And then, and even the same thing of True Romance. True Romance, Tony Scott stays pretty darn true to Tarantino's script.
I was looking at, I thought that Tarantino had something to do with the Mariachi series, but I guess not.
He's in Desperado. He plays, he's in the bar scene.
Oh, that's right.
And
that's right.
Yeah. Because him and Robert Rodriguez were just at that time period, they were just working on all kinds of stuff. Because there's another movie that they got together. It's called Four Rooms, and it's like a anthology. And the only thing that kind of connects them all together is Tim Roth, who plays Mr. Orange.
He plays
the bellboy, and he goes on to each one of these rooms. and I'm drawing a blank on the other two directors, but Tarantino does one, Robert Rodriguez does another one, and Robert Rodriguez's short is amazing. Like his one in 4 rooms, and it's got Antonio Banderas in it and everything.
I see that. Yep.
It's super good. The Tarantino one, it's not bad, but it's not as good as you expect. And then there's a couple other ones.
Allison Anders, Alexandra Rockwell.
Yeah, that's right.
Tarantino.
And Madonna's in one of those other ones too, so she's there. But it's kind of a cool movie, actually. I've been kind of wanting to go back and watch it again.
Madonna won Worst Supporting Actress at the Golden Raspberry Awards. That's funny.
Yeah, Bridget Nielsen gets that for Red Sonja, and I like Red Sonja, so.
I haven't seen that one either.
Oh, you never seen that one?
On my list here.
I like that. There's apparently a brand new Red Sonja that came out this year. I mean, I know it's kind of probably a low budget movie.
There was,
but I saw it pop up, and I was like, I'm gonna have to check that out. I don't care if it's low budget or not. I'll watch it anyways. But I like the old one, the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger and everything like that. You know, I still think it's fun.
We're on a quest to watch like all the action movies from
every action movie.
You know, like all the Arnold films, every action movie.
Everyone, starting from 1895.
Exactly. No, just the big names that, you know, every household knows. So all the Arnold films, the Stallones,
Chuck Norris,
Van Damme, what's his name? Steven Seagal. Not that many for Steven Seagal, but there's a handful.
But that Steven Seagal, it's like 87 to about 95. That era of Steven Seagal is really good. That's the thing, is that he's really good in that period, and then he just kind of falls off the face of the earth all of a sudden.
We were watching some videos and reading some stuff that he seems like a pretty interesting / weird guy.
yeah, kind of a creepster and so on like that.
Dolph Lundgren. That's who I was thinking. Dolph Lundgren. What's his name? Dylan from
Carl
Predator.
Weathers.
Yeah, Carl Weathers.
This is the sad thing about Carl Weathers is he only got 2 starring action roles in his life, and it's kind of a bummer because I feel like he should have had a bunch of starring movies. And he's got Hurricane Smith and he's got Action Jackson. And they're not bad, but they're just okay. The thing
they're
is,
okay, but let me put it this way: when I was like 11 years old, I thought it was the best film I'd seen that night.
Was it Action Jackson?
I was like, yeah, this movie rocks.
Because I loved Action Jackson as a kid, but like it's one of those ones when I watch it, I go, it should be just that much better because I just love Carl Weathers so much, you know?
Yeah.
And the thing too about Carl Weathers is I always feel like comparatively to like a lot of the other guys, he's like a super actor too. Like his acting chops are like way higher than like, you know, even the guys I like a lot, Stallone and you know Arnold and all that kind of stuff. Like Carl Weathers is like the super actor of them all.
He's not in I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, is he? Carl Weathers? I don't think he is.
I've never seen that one.
Oh man.
Yeah, I know I'm missing out. I know I've always had that one. I've always wanted to check it out, but never have.
It's not like an amazing film, but it's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, no, it looked like it was fun.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I think I'm thinking of Keenen Ivory Wayans.
Oh, okay.
John Witherspoon. There's a lot of bigger name actors that are Isaac Hayes.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Nice.
He's pretty hilarious in there. It's just a lot of campy slapstick that I would say for the time was pretty great. Mm-hmm. Gosh, speaking of that, the what you call it? I think we were talking about it recently. Spinal Tap 2.
Yes, I'm gonna go see that. I mean, this week, but this episode will probably be out past that. But
yeah, of course.
Got to drive to go find it, of course. You know, but
yeah, I don't know if that's playing around me. It's probably not. It's probably playing about an hour away.
That's literally what I literally have to drive an hour to go see it, but it's worth it.
I mean, you got to drive an hour down to Sonora, and then you drive an hour away somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. It's nothing's close. It's the only downfall of living out in like the woods is that like everything's like it's fine if you don't have to leave. At the second, you
just wait for everything, man. Anytime something cool's coming around, just say it's okay. Here in about a year, be able to just watch it at home.
Yeah, that's true. You get big enough TV, put a projector outside. There you go. You know, but yeah, I don't know.
Man, yeah, yeah. Going back to what I said, after Luna, that was his first direct his directorial
Debut.
I can't. Yeah, Jimmy over here. I can definitely say I appreciate this film more than I did yesterday after I finished watching it, and that's not to say that I, turned it off after the credits started rolling. It's just that, not to say that I didn't like it. I just was kind of like, I don't know. It didn't quite hit home for me like a couple of other movies of his. But of course, knowing that was his first directed film, I'm like, okay, I'm going to give him the credit, where it's due, because, that movie led up to a lot of really awesome films. And I can't knock it. Yeah. I think I look at The Hateful Eight as a much more mature effort. By saying that, I mean, it's just, if you've seen them both, you realize there's a lot of similarities on how they're directed, on the different scenes, the way they cut, and stuff. And it's obviously way later in life, so there's a lot more production. Tarantino's much more experienced, more money. He's got a lot more going for himself to make these movies at this point. But that said, it's like, I guess it's kind of like, we were talking about MGS. You're playing, once you get to, Metal Gear Solid 4, it's hard to go back to the first one and say, wow, this is the best thing I've ever played, when it comes to Metal Gear Solid. Because at that point, it's like, it's not, but you remember it and you go, when this came out, this was fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. Even though sometimes there's this thing where sometimes you can get more features and so on like that, as the farther versions go along. But then sometimes you come by and you're like, what? So that's kind of nice when it's sort of streamlined and simple and to the point. You know, so I can have a mixed merry of all kinds of different stuff, and it's just even with certain films and so on like that. Sometimes there's that thing where you want more and more and more, and then you kind of realize, you know what? Sometimes when it's just very simple and, just Reservoir Dogs. I think what makes that, it's when you do watch it, it's you can't help but go man, I kind of want to go make a movie right now, because you look at it, you go, it's all I gotta do is get a couple of locations, just a little bit of some very light costumes. I think that's one of the things about it, is you look at it, you go, yeah, that's kind of what it is. Now, granted, is everybody going to have a script as good as Reservoir Dogs with that dialogue? That's a lot of times the main issue. Even though I do like the movies that follow up in the late 90s, I call them Tarantino knockoffs, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but there's just a lot of kind of interesting ones where they use that Tarantino style of filmmaking and look. And I think of movies like Way of the Gun, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, Snatch, 3,000 Miles from Graceland, they all have that Tarantino vibe to them and so on like that. And it's kind of a fun era. I mean, Boondock Saints is a perfect example. That's another Tarantino knockoff type movie. Yeah, that does that. Absolutely, man. I kind of was thinking about that myself, and how that's similar it seemed. But what's weird enough, and I guess it's kind of like you said, knockoff, is watching Boondock Saints. I know that's not a Tarantino film. I don't even have to look it up, even though it kind of feels like it's somewhere in the ballpark. Yeah. That's one of those movies, if somebody told you that movie was Tarantino produced, you would be like, that makes sense. Yeah, I'd say, okay, that maybe. Yeah, not written, not directed. Yeah, slightly involved, there it is. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's man, I don't think I've ever heard you talk about a movie you didn't like. Me? Yeah, it takes a lot. I'm pretty. It felt like there was a time period where I was like, you know what? I'm just going to be really open towards movies. That was my thing. I was like, granted, I'm not saying that not once in a while you can run into some movie that just maybe makes you angry at a certain level or something like that. For probably more not because it's necessarily a bad movie, but because it's just doing something goofy or something or it's got some dumb characters. But yeah, for the most part, I try to always look at all the elements of stuff, because sometimes there can be a movie you can watch. There's so much that goes into making a movie, and the short amount of time I was in this college course called film appreciation,
one thing I remember the instructor saying was, or sorry, professor, the guy saying was that like every single thing you see in the shot is there for a reason. You know, like the placement of a telephone, the shade on this spot on the wall, the creaking noise in the side of the room. You know what I mean? Like every single thing was there on purpose. And he might have gotten a little dramatic about it. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, I would say the point is there's a lot that goes into this. And, you know, I wouldn't mean to crap all over somebody's project. You know what I mean? Because I'm not out there making movies. So I don't know what I could do. Maybe I'd make a great movie. Then again, I got the idea I'd make a big old steaming pile of horse shit when it comes to making a movie. And so it's like, you know, as I would say for anyone doing this, it's like my hat's off to you. I think it's really cool that you could even put something out, and for it to be put out and just be super good. It's like, dude,
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, you know, it's the way that I always kind of look at stuff. It's like, I'll look at the whole picture, because sometimes you watch a movie and I think sometimes people will see there'll be like one thing that they don't like about it, and that tears the whole foundation down for them in their mind, like that it was a bad movie. But then you kind of stop and go, well, wait a second, there's a couple cool action scenes in there, like I like this character, the set pieces, the soundtrack was kind of neat. Yeah, it might not be a great movie, but like, yeah, it still has some things going for it. And that's how I try to look. I try to look at it like that, like, you know, like what's the whole overall picture, you know what I mean? Sometimes there might be some dumb elements, like I'll use this as an example. This is one of those ones, like this is like one of my go-tos for kind of like annoying ass characters, but the Steven Spielberg movie War of the Worlds, and it's weird to say Steven Spielberg first.
You mean the one with Tom Cruise?
Yes, the one with Tom Cruise, because this is a perfect example where it's got two of the worst characters in it, which is Tom Cruise's kids in that movie, like fucking little Goku and Dakota Fanning. They're both like so god awful terrible children that you just wish that those like tripod walkers would have just stepped on them and smashed them in the first 10 seconds of the movie. Of course, none of them died. And even the stupid Goku kid, once you thought he was dead, of course he shows up at the end.
I know, right?
Whatever. Here's the thing. Those characters are terrible. They almost could bring down that entire movie because they're so bad. You know, they just hate Tom Cruise's father so much, though he's done nothing wrong.
Nothing wrong.
No, but here's the thing. Everything else in that movie, the sci-fi stuff in it, the special effects, everything else going on, it's all badass. So I try to look at it like, yeah, man,
okay. My favorite scene in that whole movie is when he steps outside and there's like blood fog.
Yes.
I was like, what? I've never seen anything like this.
That's what I mean. Is there so many other cool things in there that it's never going to erase those bad children, but at least, you know, where some people would be like, they'd see those bad children and be like, that's it, that movie's terrible, I would never watch it again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, man, I'm right there with you on that. The last movie that I watched that I really just 100% did not like was a Dracula movie. I didn't know it was going to be a Dracula movie. It was called, God, I don't even remember what it's called at this point, but my wife and I went and saw it in theaters because we thought it looked good. Oh, excuse me. It's called The Invitation, which is upsetting to me because there's a prior movie called The Invitation, which, mind you, is a slow burn, but it's about this suicide cult. Mm-hmm. And this guy gets invited with his fiance or wife, whatever, to his ex-wife's house up in the hills of Hollywood, I think, for a house party. And it ends up being a suicide cult. Like it's pretty crazy. It's a really good movie. It's a slow burn. I enjoyed it a lot. I guess I gave you spoilers, so sorry about that. But
okay. A lot of times I feel like you're not really spoiled if you haven't watched it. You know, there's two different. Somebody saying something and then actually seeing it is two different experiences.
Yeah, but yeah, The Invitation. I think it's a fantastic movie. And then you have this new Dracula movie called The Invitation, and it was so dumb. It just was so. I can appreciate
that's not that French one that just came out, is it?
It came out like 2 years ago.
Okay, never mind then. Yeah,
2 or 3 years ago. I don't know, but no, it's this young black girl gets an invitation from some white European guy, or British, I think.
Yeah, sounds safe.
And says that, hey, you're my long lost family member, and blah blah blah. And I'm thinking, like, this doesn't make any sense to begin with, but whatever. And
it's just like when you got that postcard from Africa telling you to come on back.
Yeah. And so,
it's been about 10,000 years.
Yeah, so he says, okay, here, you should come meet the rest of the family, blah blah blah. And she's like in her mid-20s or something, and she's like, oh, I'm gonna go, of course, yeah. And she does, and then it ends up like,
yeah, I'm part of a white family. I'm out of here.
Things are so weird, and like things at first they're like, wow, this is great, everything's fancy, they're rich, they live in a castle, and there's this like super handsome white guy, and she's like immediately like attracted to him and this and that, and then it turns out he's Dracula.
Oh,
and I'm like, what? Like, this is a Dracula film? Like, it was like not marketed that way at all. Like, it kind of really pissed me off, actually, because I like vampires quite a bit. I think there's the world of vampires is so huge. There's room for everything. So I guess there's room for a shitty
except for this movie, though.
Yeah. But it's still like, and the feelings were mutual between my wife and I, which was nice, because we usually have a pretty good idea about the same stuff. But either way, with movies like this, I feel like a lot of times they're aimed more at like a female audience. And but she was like, this is terrible. This is done. Like, it wasn't that entertaining. The lines are super cheesy. If I'm gonna have cheesy lines, I want it to be a movie like Dumb and Dumber. Like,
or at least I want
it to be that kind of movie, not a semi horror romance drama,
dramatic,
just, it was so dumb. And the jokes that were in it were like, if you could make Disney jokes even more cringeworthy, like, it was just terrible. But that's the last movie I really didn't like, and since then I've watched a lot, and because I guess I try to be a bit more open too. But that said, I guess they can't all be zingers.
Yeah, no, it's like once in a while I'll run across some movie. Guys, sadly enough, one of the last movies that I was really disappointed in was that new Jurassic Park one, and I think it's because I like Jurassic Park so much. But
I heard the same thing from a lot of people.
It was just the dialogue and the script and the characters were just so dumb and bad. Like, it's just one of those ones like, you're like, dude, this is like one of those ones, like, if we had Michael Crichton, he could at least put some intelligence in there. But like, I think the thing, if it wasn't Jurassic Park, I think I would have been like, that movie kind of sucked, but whatever, But since it was Jurassic Park,
when it's something
sort of
you
like,
love already,
it felt like it hit me like a lot more personal.
It reminds me of the South Park episode where they're talking about Indiana Jones.
Yeah, well, that's another one too. It's like that Indiana Jones 5 was another one too.
I haven't even seen that. I've only seen up to
Harrison Ford's fine, but they got like the really annoying ass robot that's in I think it's Han Solo, that's pretty much like Fembot in a sense. That's that chick, the actual like human version of it, is in that movie, and God, she's terrible. Yeah.
The last Indiana Jones movie I saw was the one with Shia LaBeouf.
And that was comparatively not that bad.
I thought it was an all right movie. I just understood why a lot of people thought it was stupid.
I remember I got to somebody was talking about that movie, and like they were talking about like, wow, that was kind of a dumb movie. I'm like, it was, and I went on the same. I was like, what's the thing is funny is I love how people are so bothered by the alien parts that like that was the part that bothered them, when it's like, let's be honest, like the Christian stuff is probably less likely to be real. Like the alien has like a higher chance of that being real. And I remember this lady was a Christian and I went this whole tirade how like just going off about,
I mean, for God's sake, man, the Ark of the Covenant like melted people's faces.
Yeah.
And they're upset about the aliens being.
Yeah, it's like they're like, oh, aliens not real. It's like aliens probably a much more higher chance.
I never saw the. I've in Jurassic Park. I've only seen the first 3 too. I didn't see any of the newer ones.
Yeah, the newer one. It's the Jurassic World, not too bad. That one's actually still pretty good. The 5th one was kind of like it had a mixed match. Like there was parts that were really good, and then it had two, in a sense, I'm going to just use this like term, but two bad woke characters in it, in a sense, that just like really taking you out. Not god awful, not enough to ruin the movie, but they were still kind of like, what the hell is going on here?
I feel like
sixth one came back a little bit more, but then that seventh one looked like it should have been good. And
you know, I'm not a fan of regulation, not a fan of censorship.
Nope.
But I feel like
freedom.
But I feel, yeah, but I tell you, if there's something that should be regulated in this world, it's sequels and prequels.
Yeah, you know,
I feel like there needs to be a lengthy process where you like give your script, your planned actors, actresses, whoever, and you say like, this is how this needs to go, so that there can be some well qualified. How that will happen, I don't know, but some individuals that say, sorry, but you know, we've got 10 boxes that we need checked off, and you only hit 9, and that's the breaks.
Yeah. I kind of agree too, because it's like it blows my mind sometimes. You go like, this script went this far, like
because it gets to the point where franchises are ruined.
Yeah, well, it's just like that one where it's just like, I hate to sort of say it, like, but it's like you'll see like it went through that many people's like hands and reading it, and everyone like, yeah, that's good. like, that's the part is if it was only one person making it, if it was like Kim Jong-un making a movie and no one had said anything against him, I'd be like, okay, I get it. Like it was literally a one man's vision, you know, but the fact that like it has to go through so many people's hands, and it's just like,
we talk about that also, all the time.
Granted, going through a lot of people's hands can also be, the committee's almost one of the worst things too, because then that like filters things out. That's why you sort of want, you know, stuff that's kind of you know, one person's story for the most part. That's why I always feel like, when it sounds weird, but like mangas, what makes those kind of nice is for the fact that it's generally one person's story that writes that whole thing. So you're getting a very pure thing. Now, granted, there's mostly about 4, for the most part, unnamed extra artists on there. Though I've noticed in recent times they've started to get their names in the books. But like back in the day, it just made it feel like, yeah, this one person wrote and drew all this, and you're like, oh, okay. And then you kind of learn later on, you're like, no, somebody else, there's like 4 other people that are like slaving away, that are uncredited, that are filling in like all the blacks and doing the tones and drawing the backgrounds and all this kind of stuff to make this artist look like he's like the shit.
No shade upon Stan Lee whatsoever here, but when I was like, I don't know, in my 20s, when I realized that he didn't make every single Marvel character. You know, like that there was tons and tons of characters and stories and stuff that's like tons of other people. And I thought he came up with every single character.
Drew them all himself.
Came up with them, drew. Yeah. And, you know, I didn't know that much about comics. I didn't know that much about stories and shit. And, but I was almost like upset. I'm like, man, I mean, like, thank the Lord for that guy, you know, because he was responsible for a lot of stuff that I like. But I mean, at the same time, I'm like, I don't even know if like how thankful I should be about Spider-Man, you know, like but
yeah, I look at it like he's the one who got a lot of those stories at least through the door, and that's kind of you got to sometimes look at it like that. Like at the end of the day, it should be more about the final product. I mean, I kind of like this sounds like a music thing, but like the Van Halen way that like when on all their songs, it has all 4 members on there that wrote them. You know what I mean? Because the whole point of that is like, no. It's not like it's just one guy. It's like, it's the band that puts it together. And I like to look at it like that too. It's like, you know what? They're putting it all together. It's a team effort and so on like that. You know, I know Stan's kind of at the head of the pack, but you know, he's maybe just the guy that makes it so it's popular. You know, it's kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know, and all that stuff for like bodybuilding and so on like that. Like, yeah, he does sort of step in front of a whole lot of other people and so on like that, makes some other people really angry and so on. But at the end of the day, we know more about bodybuilding and all that kind of stuff in that whole world because of Arnold, you know what I mean? In a sense, because he kind of stood forward when nobody else kind of really wanted to, you know, lo and hope be whatever that is. But yeah, you know, I don't know. But yeah, every once in a while I say a movie will kind of bother me, but mostly it will bother me for like other stuff where it's not like, it's like someone just the decisions they make, they almost kind of like, they hit too close to home in a weird way where you're like, God damn it, like what's going on here? Like, you know, if it was anything else, I wouldn't think much of it, but since, something like Jurassic Park that I really like. Yeah, as I said, that was one of the few ones, like, I don't even know if I'd go back and watch that. Like, even like 10 years from now, I think I'll feel pretty like... It'll be like when I watched Thor Ragnarok. I still can't really go back and watch that. Like, and it's not. Here's the thing: half that movie actually is really good. I'm not denying that half of it's when there's some fight scenes, they're really good. When there's some really interesting stuff,
but there's
great.
scenes in it where you just like get up, go to the bathroom, get a snack.
Yeah, there's just so much dumb lines and stuff in there that it's like kind of in a weird way, kind of almost like slightly offensive. like in a sense, like that's like I don't want to be like that, but it's like I felt like it was kind of offensive towards like Norse mythology and stuff.
Well, yeah, like I've said this 1,000 times, man. There's nothing Ragnarok about it. Even the Ragnarok part in the movie, of which I said there's nothing. They fall short of what Ragnarok is. Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's a comic book movie. It's a Disney Marvel movie. I get it, but I mean. Holy crap, man! At least give like a Monomarth a cameo or something. I mean,
yeah. Well, I hate to sort of say it. If it was a comic book, it would be real serious. That's the thing.
For sure.
That's the thing is when you read the Marvel comic books, they're real serious. Yeah, there might be a couple jokes, but they're not dumb jokes. They're like for the most well thought. I'm not gonna say there's some dumb jokes in there, but for the most part, the stories themselves are pretty darn to the point. Depending on the writer, but. Yeah, sometimes you get the movies, it's like, what the hell happened here? Like, something got lost in translation. And I mean, I know what they're doing. They're trying to sell it to the widest margin. They're in a sense, they're selling it to the people who don't care about comic books.
Exactly.
And sometimes it's like one of those ones like, you pretty much have to, Joan of Arc your own character to pretty much try to get it to a mass audience, and sacrifice them. So, I don't know. But, yeah.
Well... As far as the dogs in the reservoir.
yeah. As far as the reservoir, we went like a 20-minute tirade, but like it started off like, I'm trying to be really open to movies, but it pisses me off, man. Yeah.
I'm never watching a movie again.
Yeah, I thought we were professionals here. You guys are acting like a bunch of amateurs.
Oops.
But yeah, no, Reservoir Dogs, it's always fun to go back to. I love checking it out. It's been kind of fun because there's been a handful of these movies that you've thrown out there be like, I haven't seen this, and it's like, well, I haven't watched this movie in a long time, and I love this one, so let's jump on into it, because that's kind of the cool thing. Because I noticed that there's been a while where it's like some movies that like I liked a lot back in the day that I used to watch all the time, and then all of a sudden it's like, dude, it's been like over 10 plus years since I've seen this. I mean, just a couple of movies we just watched recently, Reservoir Dogs, Point Break, and even like Boondock Saints. It's like, God, I probably haven't watched these movies in like a decade, it seems like. So, that's what makes it kind of fun. And like you go back to them and it's almost like, the movie, but it's almost like a brand new experience again. But yeah, if you haven't seen Reservoir Dogs, by all means, throw that bad boy on. Next thing you know, you'll see what it's all about. You'll see what the hype was all telling you and so on like that. But till then, you can always check out all the other Old Man Orange podcasts, Via VHS podcasts, and even Silent Evil podcasts at YouTube and Spotify. Till then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Dave Candito. And you're Mr. Pink because Mr. Purple's on another job.
Exactly, and nobody can be Mr. Black because then you just fight over it.
Exactly.
I wonder if there's a black guy on the mission. Can he be Mr. Black? Or is that racist if he's Mr. Black? Or what if he's Mr. White? All these questions to be asked, Maybe Tarantino will he'll bring him up in his 10th movie, Reservoir Dogs 2, the sequel you didn't expect. What is Reservoir Dogs 2? Well, you'll have to watch it to find out. Until then, we are out of here.